Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Larry Reisman. I'm with TCPalm, the community editor, and we're here to interview candidates for Indian River County tax collector. I'm joined by our two tax collector candidates, Carol Jean Jordan and Brenda Bradley, as well as my fellow editorial board members, Adam Neal, who's the editor and news director of TCPalm, Gil Smart, one of our columnists, and Louise Philippine, a reader advisory board member. We may be joined by Terry Schlitt, who also is a member of that board. I'll lead the questioning and open it up to other editorial board members at the end. Adam will direct the video coverage, and if we get questions from our social media audience on Facebook and YouTube, they might decide to pose, or he might decide to pose one or two at the end of the session. We really appreciate your streamlining the process, Brenda and Carol Jean, by completing the questionnaires ahead of time. We've reviewed them, so we don't have questions on some of those issues. We might go a little bit deeper, but it's really helped us out. Your answers, by the way, can be found at tcpalm.com. Elections, along with other stories, videos, and information about the August 18 election. At the conclusion of this interview, editorial board members will discuss possibly writing an editorial to recommend a candidate in the race. We've got several questions for you today, and we might end up having more of a conversation than just a simple Q&A. Our goal is to be completed in about 45 minutes, maybe earlier. Because of our time constraints, we ask that you keep your answers concise, just like you would be, like we tell our county commission and school board candidates, like they would be on the dais. That would be good, and be respectful of others. We'll start the questioning just determined by alphabetical order with Brenda. So, Brenda, can you tell us what are the three most important roles of the tax collector?
As far as the office, it's being an administrative office. Customer service is always number one. Employee retention, fiscal responsibility. I think the employee retention and customer service goes hand in hand, because as the tax collector, you should look at both of those as customers. So you have your customer service. You have to, forgive me, fiscal responsibility and being accountable, I think I would consider the three most important.
Okay. Carol Jean, would you like to answer the same question, please?
I certainly would, Larry, and team leaders, and that's what I think is one of the number one responsibilities that I have, is to be the team leader here in the tax collector's office. We do so many different things now, things that we've been able to bring aboard over the past few years, and there's just a huge amount of responsibility that you give to your team, to the different directors, to the different departments. And while I love to go out up front and help people and wait on people to a certain extent, I still have to step back and take a look at the big picture. And I think, Larry, the biggest picture we look at is the future of the tax collector's office, how things are changing on a daily basis. We were able to bring in our software system, Grant Street Company, a few years back, and it's just second to none. But things are just changing daily, and I think we have to be on the lookout for the things that are going to make the office run the most efficiently, but certainly with the best customer service for our citizens.
Okay, thanks, Carol Jean. You'll start with the next question, if you would, please. Can you please grade how well each of those three, whatever the three areas you talked about, are performed now with an A through F grade?
You mean myself, or are you speaking
No,
of the office?
the importance of the three most important facets of the office. Can you grade each one of those from an A through an F?
Well, I think it's the grade has to be a B working on an A all the time, because we're always moving forward. We're always making a difference. We're always looking for a better way to do things. So I think it has to be a B, always looking for an A or an A plus. But again, our responsibilities are so different and so varied in the different departments and the different offices that we're always looking to do something better.
Okay, so Brenda, would you like to give me to repeat the question in terms of the three functions that you think are the most important and how are they performed now, A through F?
For my responses,
Sure, yeah.
well, I can't grade those. I'm not there. So you're asking on, just clarify what you're wanting me to ask it from, I guess.
Well, I think, you said customer service, employee retention, and fiscal responsibility were the most important things in the office.
Mhm.
Can you give each of those a grade, A through F?
Okay. I would say on employee, combining with customer service, that's hard to grade that because I would say the customer service is definitely an A. I'm not in a campaign to run against customer service, but I would say employee customer service is an F. I would say that fiscal responsibility is about a C minus, and accountability is about a C minus.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Brenda. Let's go to, let's switch the questions up a little bit. Let's start with Brenda first. Can you please quickly or succinctly give a specific example of a time when you achieved a long-term professional goal that required collaboration with others?
I would say my best success was becoming the chief of staff of the tax collector's office. I worked there for 14 years, and quickly as I came through the door in 2002, I was hired as the bankruptcy and collection supervisor and moved all the way up to the second in command. And that took leadership, interaction with staff, and accountability and trust. So I think that was my biggest success in my career.
Thanks, Brenda. Carol Jean, do you want me to repeat the question there?
Go ahead, you can repeat it.
Okay. Please succinctly give a specific example of a time when you achieved a long-term professional goal that required collaboration with others.
Well, if you're speaking specifically to the tax collector's office, I can talk about numerous ones. Just the most recent and was getting through the transition of moving from one Sebastian office to the other. It was a goal that we get into a better, cleaner, more efficient office. It took an awful lot of teamwork, both with Indian River County buying a building, everybody here in the office preparing for the move, the customers being so patient with us as we made that move, and just working with everybody during the construction and the renovation and the success of what we have now in the Sebastian office. If you want to go further back, I can talk about a lot of things.
I wanted one, so that was good.
Okay.
So Carol Jean, we'll start with another sort of, we'll start with a different question for you. Can you please give an example of something specific you've done that has displayed your commitment to improving lives of people who are members of groups that have been discriminated against?
When I became tax collector, we were going to today's arena. There were mostly, I think we had one gentleman working here in the office, and everybody else was white women. And I think what I've been able to bring to this office is huge diversity, both in the African American community, in the Hispanic community, and we probably have 6 or 7 gentlemen now. So we have a much better mix, and it's a great thing for me to watch because I enjoy the interaction of everybody, and again, the team building and the working together of the different diverse groups here in the 3 offices, and certainly in the Oceanside complex when it's open.
Okay. Brenda, same question, or would you like me to repeat it?
No, I would just like to share that in general, I'm a nonprofit volunteer for several organizations in our community, most importantly, Camp Haven, the Men's Homeless Transition Shelter. And I also volunteer in the Wabasso community. And it was very different when I first started getting involved there, because they thought that I wanted something, and they felt that they have been discriminated in our community for a very long time. And I think I have built the bridge that was gapping there to help them understand that we're all in this together as a community. And I've been able to connect that community with pickups at Publix for the breads and things that would be thrown away because of expiration dates, that sort of thing. Clothing, anyone that needs something, I'm always, giving that to that community. And we've just built a very wonderful relationship, and the trust that has been built from that is phenomenal. So I want to say it was more of a reverse discrimination, because I felt like it was toward me. But as I say, we don't see color. When we're all together, we're human.
Okay, thank you. I guess this is Brenda's question, but one thing that's interesting about this race is that, in this case, the incumbent's challenger, so that's you. You were the chief of staff for 5 years amid a 14-year career in the tax collector's office before you left in 2016. Can you tell us what happened that led to the separation?
Awkward moment, but I would be happy to discuss that if the current tax collector would release me from what I signed when I left the organization. I would be happy to discuss that.
Okay, Carol Jean, would you like to, the same question to you then?
If there is a legal document involved, and I think I've been very careful not to communicate anything to do with that. I will say I feel like I was a huge mentor to my opponent when she was here in the office. I tried to help her grow, as I think I do everyone in their positions. And the one thing I never could teach was kindness.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to respond to that, Brenda?
I would love to talk about it. So I have no issue to discuss it. If she would release it, I would be happy to talk about it. I'm an open book. My employee file is right here, and kindness is the number one thing in my heart. And I think anyone that knows me has no issue with me being unkind. So
Carol Jean, would you release that information?
No, it's a legal document. And there's a severance package involved in that, and our policy is not to speak about employees that have been terminated from the office.
Okay. What about the documents themselves? Are there certain documents that are confidential or no? Or can we just make a public record?
There's a severance document. I'm sure you could do a public record request for it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
So Carol Jean, we'll start with you here. Can you address employee turnover and whether less turnover would cost taxpayers less?
That's an interesting question, Larry. The reason we went to a staffing agency was because of the tremendous amount of time that we spent going through applications, and frankly, upon the recommendation of Jess Smith, we went to a local staffing agency, and that gives us the opportunity for the agency to look through all those resumes, to know who their people are, to know who the best fit for this office. And then once they're brought into the office, we have 90 days, the original 90 days, where we work with them, we train them, we interact within the offices with the people that we're hiring, and we decide if they are a good fit for us, and they decide if this job is a good fit for them. So it's made a huge difference in the and the ability to just take a look at people and see if it's going to work out and see if they like us. And I think it's been a cost saving measure.
Okay, so basically what you do is they bring in the people. If you like them, then they'll get hired on the county payroll. Is
Right.
that?
We personally interview the applicants that they send up. We look at the applications, and applications sometimes are deceiving. So more times than others, we do go ahead and interview for with the applications that they send us. Once in a while, we'll see one that really doesn't have the skill set we think that we need, and then we sit down and we spend maybe an hour and a half with them and going over who they are and what they believe in. I mean, my first question is why do you think you want to work in the tax collector's office? Because Larry, we hire from, I mean, we bring people up in our organization and from the front line. It's really advantageous in most of our departments for you to have worked the front line, for you to understand the Department of Motor Vehicles, how driver's license work, how the concealed weapon program works. So we like to everybody to have that opportunity. And then it's amazing. Sometimes people are only here a year or two where we go up to somebody working the front line and say, hey, you really have the skills we need for this job or that job, or do you think you would like this job? And we move them on up in the organization.
Okay. So Brenda, can you address the employee turnover and whether less turnover would cost taxpayers less, or any other comments related to what Carol Jean said?
Absolutely. Less turnover would cost taxpayers less. In the current administration, there's been 106 employees to leave in 11 years. I left in 2016. I was employee number 61 to leave. And in 3.5 years, that means 45 more employees have left. It takes about an average of $8,000 to train an employee. And that's not in the beginning. That's just once they get through the door. And when you do the math, that's $848,000 in 11 years. Now, we can be generous and say 25 of those may be left for retirement, for relocation, or were terminated for just cause. So that's $200,000 less. So you're still looking at $648,000 of lost revenue. My concern with these employee leasing companies, currently the tax collector is using two. One is out of Tallahassee to bring back retired employees, which I don't understand. And the second one being local, we should not really need leasing companies. We should be focusing on employee retention. We should be mentoring and encouraging the employees for promotions and for jobs they are suited for in the organization. But that's not happening. And my concern is with the turnover, the institutional knowledge, when you bring an employee from a leasing company, they come in for 90 days. That means 90 days of training has been completed on that employee. And if they end up not being suited for that position, or selected, I should say, by the tax collector, then that's 90 days of institutional knowledge that went out the door. This isn't a job that you can go to a college and learn. It is all on the job training. So we're losing revenue in more ways than just the hiring and the loss of the employee.
Carol Jean, any response to that?
Yes, I do have. I don't know where those numbers are coming from for the total people that are gone, but I can tell you in the past few years with LF staffing, we have either the person themselves or we decided that 22 did not fit in the office. And I was really glad that we didn't, I don't ever want to lose anybody. No, don't let me say that. But the paperwork that's involved, Larry, in bringing in a full-time employee into this office, just the Florida retirement system is just stacks of paper that you bring in when you hire someone, if you hire them off an application. Whereas with LF, we can keep them for 90 days. We can do the training. We can even go on beyond the 90 days if we'd like. It is a temp for hire position. So 22 of those didn't work out. So we didn't have to do the incoming Florida retirement system paperwork, nor the outgoing Florida retirement system paperwork. They were paid through the staffing agency, and I will tell you, it saves us a tremendous amount of time and money.
So Brenda, you're saying that if you're hired, you would do, I'm just making sure I'm getting this right. If you were hired, you would not have the temporary agency anymore, you would hire employees on right away?
I would hire employees the old-fashioned way. I would interview them. I would check their references. I would do all the due diligence I could do to select the right candidate for the job. There's no perfect employee. It's all learning the job. It's learning to interact with the other employees. It's a new environment for the individual coming in. And I would certainly give them every opportunity to succeed in the office rather than terminating them because they didn't work out. The fact that 22 employees didn't work out is very scary. Prior to the current administration, employees never left the tax collector's office. This is a job that is a government job. There's no nights, there's no weekends, there's air conditioned, paid vacations. The perks go on and on. Why in the world would an employee leave a job at a government agency in our community? Those jobs don't come along a lot. So I totally disagree. And I would not need a leasing company, and I would not be bringing back retired employees. I would be mentoring to make sure that there's a true succession plan.
Larry, may I comment on a couple of those?
Sure.
The thing I'm most proud of, or the thing I'm proud of, is I have had, since 2016, I have had 7 employees that were employed here for a long time with a lot of institutional memory that called and asked to come back. They're on board and working like they always did. As referenced, the Tallahassee leasing firm, unfortunately, that firm no longer exists. And through IRS and the Florida retirement system, they had to dissolve their company. And that's a loss to us because I have somebody that just retired, Debbie G., who many of you may have met over the years, was here for 39 years as our director of taxes. And I can tell you, when she left last week, it broke her heart and it broke my heart. I wish there was a way that I could say, Debbie, keep working for us, because she had gone into the drop program. She was concerned about her future employment, and she would love to have just gone in come back through the hiring agency. And I don't understand why the law passed. I don't understand I understand how the drop program works, but I really don't understand what the thinking was, because I think those long-term employees with institutional memory are invaluable to us. And I think if nothing else, Debbie G. is the best example of that. So many people in this county and around the state of Florida have called her and have asked her all those pertinent questions, because the tax department is a very complicated animal, and she is just the best at it. And like I said, both our hearts were broken when she left. So I'm happy to have my long-term employees, my institutional memory employees back. And again, the staffing agency has really worked out well for us. Some people get on that front line and they just freeze. What they may have learned in this back room, while they know everything about what they're supposed to, they've got somebody sitting beside them to help them through. Waiting on that first customer sometimes is terrifying.
Okay, thanks. We'll go with Brenda on this one. And Brenda, you may be, you haven't been around for a couple of years, but maybe you can talk about what it was like when you were there, or what you would do if you're elected. So the question is, and it relates to employees again, can you please address the process of, or lack thereof, of succession planning in the office? How would you handle those matters?
Well, succession planning starts immediately as soon as you walk through the door. And I will say that when I left the office, I was not replaced. So there's no second in command. There's not a person that will be able to run the ship if something unfortunately happened to the current tax collector. It would be a team effort, which I get that, but you really need to have a person to go to. Succession planning starts, to me, I would think, on the front line. Let them learn that. When I was there, I was very instrumental in making sure that everyone was cross-trained, because we did have a limited staff. I made sure that the backroom operations could help the front line when we were busy. VIN checks we implemented that in the finance department. The finance clerks would go out the side door and do the VIN checks. So succession planning is all about mentoring in those departments. Cross-training is key, but once an employee has that cross-training, they might see another area of the office that they would really want to transfer to. And there's not that many areas to transfer, but if that would be something that they would serve the office better, then that should be something we should consider. So once you get these key employees in those positions, in those departments, then you want to mentor them with every bit of knowledge to pass on to make sure that when you leave, that there's not a hiccup. And I do have a concern with the 39-year employee that we would want to bring back, because where did the institutional knowledge go with that 39-year employee? Why was it not being passed on all this time to where the office could run successfully? She left with a $99,000 salary. Now, this is a local county government office, and at that kind of salary, what is she going to come back as a salary? And my concern is, why would we be top heavy and not have the employees from the front line that start out at $11.25 an hour get those pay scales back in line to where you don't have $100,000 employees leaving a local county office?
Thank you. Carol Jean?
Certainly. You know, like I said, I miss Debbie G being here greatly, and I know she misses us, but we didn't have a hiccup when she left. Although it's only been a short amount of time. We do have succession planning in the office. Unfortunately, in Debbie's case, the young lady that she had worked with so many years developed cancer and had to retire early. But Debbie jumped right on another candidate and was able to train him so that he took over many days before she left, but he took over without a blink when Debbie had to leave the office. And I would always love to have someone of Debbie G's caliber on board, consulting or whatever need to know position. I just think the institutional memory of senior staff is invaluable. And I can tell you, in other departments, we have the same thing. Our finance director has been training a young man. A matter of fact, I'll name names. It's Gary Wheeler's grandson. His name is Brad. And we're so proud of him. He started out in this office as an intern and has now moved up into a senior position in finance. So, Larry, we're planning for the future.
Okay, thank you. I guess we'll start with you, Carol Jean, on this one.
Larry, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brenda.
May I have a comment on what was just discussed, because it's very, very important. And It stems from a comment that Carol Jean had made earlier in our interview here. Mentoring and putting them in those key positions and internal promotions. I would like to know why the individual that is training the new tax director was not considered for that promotion with over 20 years of experience and has worked in that tax department. She is the go-to individual, has a wealth of knowledge, and the individual that is put in this position came from the outside, and I don't think it's been there even 2 years, and does not have the knowledge, institutional knowledge of the tax collector's office. So why was the employee that really should have been considered for that position, why was she looked over? And now she is training this individual that's the new tax director.
Okay, Brenda or Carol Jean, did you want to respond to that or no?
Well, number one, we don't have someone by the title of tax director currently. We do have a young man in a position of management, and we have people working with him that, again, have many, many years of institutional knowledge. They are a tremendous asset to the tax department and to the tax collector's office countywide. I am so happy with our employees and with that team especially. And, you know, Larry, I'm not going to get into individual reasons why we do things, but I believe we've made the best move in that department.
Okay, thank you. So next question, just about every candidate we have in here says that they are a fiscal conservative, that they use government resources wisely. Please give up to 3 examples of things you view as being on the chopping block in the first or next budget you receive. How can you save the county money?
Who are we starting with?
Carol Jean.
Okay, and the question is 3 examples, and how are we saving money? We're just just delving into our budget. Larry, our budget isn't due until the end of this month, and we've been looking at a lot of things to see how we can cut costs. It's kind of hard to cut costs when you're as diverse as we are and do as many things as we do, but we'll certainly have to do that. What we're looking at too is things that we can do more efficiently. I'm not going to, get into specifics, but we're looking at things that we can do more efficiently to cut the cost of the entire office, because I know tough times are coming up. Our fees are down, where our fees are down, but our trans counts are up. So we still have to worry about giving the customer what they need while we're offering the safest environment for both the customers and the employees, because that's just a huge problem there, especially with COVID. I mean, we've had to be very creative in what we've done. I think, I don't know who of you may have come over here trying to get work done when everything first happened, but we literally were doing everything through the drive-through. So we're now working back in the office by appointment only, but there's a lot of things to look for in that upcoming budget to see where we can cut costs.
Okay, thank you. Brenda?
Number one cut would be $24,000 in publishing or promotional radio and advertisement in the Vero's Voice, $12,000 a year for Vero's Voice and $12,000 a year for Treasure Coast and Space Coast Radio to advertise the tax collector's office is obscene. We have a website, we have Facebook, and PSAs are totally free if we need to get an important message out to our community. Those are the ways and the vessels that we should be utilizing that. I do not understand a $24,000 budget for being on the radio. That's a frontline clerk's salary. It's just, I don't understand that one. Lunch, breakfast meetings. These are meetings that are attended usually by 3 or 4 employees of the tax collector's office, the chamber lunches, the Taxpayers Association. That's budgeted for $1,055 just to buy lunch for these employees. And in-service days, $1,000. We should not be paying any money for in-service days. We're closed to the public. That means it's an inconvenience for you to not be able to come into the office that day because we're doing intense training. The employees should be permitted to break for an hour to go to lunch, do their errands, whatever they need to do, but it should be at no cost to the taxpayer to pay for in-service days. So in total, I have some other line items, but $33,000 as soon as I walk through the door would be cut.
Okay, thank you. Any other editorial board members? Adam, Gil, Louise?
Larry,
sorry, go ahead, Carol Jean.
May I comment back on that?
Sure.
And actually, I'm gonna put you in a position. One of the things that we do with the PSAs, of course, is send it to TCPalm, to send it to every radio and print media that we can. And I sent you one not too long ago, and as you said, you just don't have the paper or the time and what's needed to continue to show who's open and who's closed. And you suggested I go to your advertising part of your business and do advertising on our openings and closings. And we have found that to be a very good way, both through the Press Journal and through local radio, to tell people. We've had so many changes in the last 6 months to tell people, when we're open, when we're closed, that you need a face mask, that you can't, bring the young children in the offices right now. So I think informing the public of what's going on at the tax collector's office so they can come in and take care of business is extremely, extremely important. The other thing, I require my directors to go to the Taxpayers Luncheon. The Taxpayers Association is a very diverse group that I believe brings in people across the community, and it helps educate them on what's going on and what our needs are in the future. And I require them to be there. Therefore, I think I should pay for their lunch.
Okay.
But you're not. The tax collector or the taxpayer is paying for the lunches. And none of that information that comes back from the Taxpayers Association, how does that benefit the office? What do the employees learn from? You can be the messenger to bring that information back, but to bring 3 and 4 employees at all times to these luncheons is unnecessary. And I can assure you, when I become tax collector, I will pay for my own lunch and my own memberships, and I don't need to have 3 or 4 employees with me unless there's a special topic that's being requested to be discussed. And I would bring the qualified employee there to have that discussion.
Okay. Adam, Gil, Louise, any questions?
Nope, I'm good, Larry.
Louise? Okay. We'll start with Brenda. If you'd like, if there's something that you'd like to bring up that we missed, we'd like to have you talk about it. You know, you have a minute or two, summarize, whatever.
Okay. Just a little bit quickly about me. I have 22 years of banking experience, internal audit operations, customer service, and 14 years of tax collector experience, the last 5 of that being chief of staff in the office. I'm committed to 3 terms. I do not look at this position as a lifelong opportunity. I think 3 terms is good. That's 12 years, and I will hit the ground running. I'm the only candidate that can go in the door and pick up where I left off. So I'm looking forward to getting back, and I'm looking forward to continuing to provide the great customer service and the much needed change that's truly needed in the tax office today. It's my hopes for the succession planning that who I would choose to groom for the next tax collector position, that the community would feel comfortable with me, that I would make that right choice, and they would be pleased to vote for that individual. So I would love to have your support, and I would also like for you to go on my website at votebrendaBradley.net to see more of what is going on in the tax collector's office, the questionable ethics and the wasteful spending that continues to go on. And I wish we had more time to talk about all of it. And I would certainly love to talk about what transpired while I was there and what caused my departure. And if the tax collector would release me from that, again, I'm an open book. I have nothing to hide, and my employee file is with me, and anyone is welcome to look through it. But I wish that could happen. That would bring closure for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Carol Jean?
Larry, it's been my honor and privilege to serve as your tax collector here these last 3 terms. There's a lot of things going on in the world, in our county, in our state. I would love to be able to be here to and look forward to the different changes that we're going to be able to make. We've given over $31 million back to the citizens of Indian River County through our county taxing districts. I'm proud of that. I believe we run a first-class operation, if you will. I'm very proud of my employees. And sometimes when I am mentoring somebody and it doesn't work out, it's very sad for me, because I feel like I've had a lot of years of experience in leadership and making decisions, whether it's the small business Jordan Sprinkler Systems, or it's the state party that I was privileged to run, or again, the 12 years here. I do enjoy mentoring people. I'm happy to bring people up through our organization. I look forward to my next terms, should you choose to vote for me. And I just thank you for all your support. And thank you, all the Press Journal TCPalm staff for being here today.
Thank you, Brenda and Carol Jean, for joining us today. Thank you for filling out the questionnaires. Again, you can find that at tcpalm.com/elections. You'll be able to watch a video of this interview there as well, if people have missed it. And again, you know, also thank you for running. We need people to do important jobs in our community, and you both served the county well over many years. And thank you again.